Hello, hello, and welcome back to my spare bedroom. I know it's been a while since I last posted a video, but that's very much because work has been very, very intense. Life as a surveyor here in the UK, certainly on a big infrastructure project, gets very intense very quickly. It is very much a case of wake up, go to work, come home, shiver a little bit, and then repeat the next day. And yeah, it gets exciting very quickly. And in the process, I've neglected my channel a little bit. But we're getting back into it. And the video I've got today is going to be one that I've certainly been waiting to make for quite some time, and I've been trying to get my hands on this particular item for quite some time. Creality is a little bit late to the party when it comes to this. Others, like Bamboo, have certainly beat them to the punch, and I am, of course, talking about multicolour filament printing. Their CFS unit, which obviously has been out for quite a while now, certainly with the K2, but they've also released the CFS upgrade kit for the K1. Now, this has been out for a little bit, but we are going to jump into it, and we're going to make this into a full tutorial on how to put this together, get back into the K1, and see where it takes us. Now, what worries me is the fact that my experience with Creality, and certainly their instructions, because I'm going in this blind, man, I've got no idea how easy or fun this is really going to be, but I'm hoping it's going to be both. We're going to get in there, bing, 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 start putting things together, and we're going to have a jolly old time, and there will be no swearing and shouting. But I have my doubts because it's Creality, and they've undoubtedly given the box of parts, which we will also get into, has me a little bit nervous. But that's neither here nor there. It's going to be a fun one. So, hey, stick around, and let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, we need to disassemble the tool head, because we need to replace the extruder that's in here. The current extruder that we have is this bad boy right here, which I think is for all intents and purposes, is a really good little extruder. Far better than the original, which didn't have an all-metal gear in here, and it didn't have this compression fitting here. So you ran into issues where that would wear down, and you just have a bad time, and it was really difficult to load certainly the Bowden tube and filament in and out of here. This one does away with most of those challenges. Some people have had issues, certainly, and I include myself in that, where I've, loaded some filament, unlocked that, forgot to lock it, head extrude, and nothing comes out because I forgot to lock it. Not the biggest issue, but, certainly not the, the most convenient, idiot-free sort of solution, but really good nonetheless. And what we're replacing it with is Creality's new extruder. So this is, obviously what changes here is the fact that we've got this cutter, as well as the fact that we've got, instead of doing away with the locking mechanism, and instead having this, which, just sort of binds to the filament as we feed it through, which, again, takes the idiot out of the equation. So, the iterative design and the improvements that Creality's made over, the last couple of, cycles as they've updated the K1 has been really good, honestly. The only challenge, however, is there is a limitation with the toolhead design. And that limitation is where all of these bad boys connect to. So here is the board that is currently in that toolhead, orientated like that. So it sits in there. The power and everything like that's been hot glued to the top here and screwed in, and you've got a fan sitting behind here. The hot end, the connections for those sort of attached to these bottom pieces, and the stepper motor attaches to this one. And we're going to start running into issues because as you disassemble this and you start having to attach some new wires, we're going to have to get into this one, as well as this one, as that's attached. Now, I would recommend disassembling the tool head completely and just, effectively pulling out this board and connecting things to it and then reassembling. The problem Creality gave us is the fact that they've hot glued just about everything on here. And so, as you can see on this one, I've broken the connection points down here. So, because of this glue, it's not what they've had in the tutorial, which is, hey, easy peel kind of glue, easy to pick off, cool, happy days. It's not. It's hard as a rock. They've overglued it. What they've got in the Creality video, and this is the rant, is, you know, clearly like an awesome sort of, you know, sample test piece, you know, specifically for videos, make things look easy. In reality, when they're manufacturing this, some dude has gone crazy with the hot glue gun and just hot glued the shit out of everything in here. It makes for, you know, working in this and disassembling just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. So we are, I've luckily, as you can tell, broken this and replaced the board in here. So I don't have any hot glue in this. It is just a forewarning for those who are going to be tempted to follow this to the letter, because I do recommend just maybe taking your time, going really carefully when you're, you know, replacing the hot end or doing something like that. Just be careful and don't sort of pull too hard on the hot glue and, yeah, pull on those connectors, because, yeah, you're bound to break something, you know. So it is what it is. But yeah, moving on. So we are now going to disassemble this thing completely. We're going to start with, you know, taking off the LiDAR module that's just on the other side here. Should be pretty straightforward enough. All right, so we've got the LiDAR module removed, which, truth be told, I'm still not entirely sure this thing does anything. It looks cool. I want it on my machine, but by the same token, have I noticed any real difference when I've you know, done those calibration prints and it's doing flow compensation, etc., etc.? Not really. I think the calibration prints that you can do in Orca will yield better results overall than this thing. So I'm not so convinced, but there we go. We still got the LiDAR. So next thing we're going to be doing is taking off the fan shroud itself. And there's 2 screws on either side, just down here, as it sort of lips up into itself by the caution hot sign. So we're going to take those 2 off. And what I recommend doing is just loosening this a little bit. I've loosened this so it's, you know, pretty floppy. It just makes for getting the fan shroud, you know, off just that much easier, because then it just slots off. Don't just pull it towards you though, because you need to disconnect the fan that's in here. So we'll disconnect that. And bear in mind, yes, that is also hot glued. So be careful. So yeah, we have that removed now. Happy days. And now we can start to get into the tool head itself. What we're going to do next is just remove the cover. There are 2 screws, so I've removed those. Well, actually, I never really put them back on, to be honest with you. One over here and one on the other side, just sort of keeping this and mounting this in place. So we're just going to get rid of that, because we're going to be obviously replacing this with a new stepper motor and extruder cover. But now we have access to our stepper motor, and we're going to reuse that. The only thing we're replacing is the actual extruder itself. So there's 3 screws that we need to tackle, 2 on this side and 1 on the other side. So let's do that. Okay, now that we've got those screws removed, this can just pop right up, being careful not to pull too hard because the connection is at the back here. But here we go. We have our extruder attached to the stepper motor, and we are going to get rid of that. Okay, so we've got that removed now, and we're also going to get rid of this little gasket that sits on the stepper motor. We do not need this. All right, so we're going to install our brand new extruder. And with this one, there is 1 shorter screw and 1 longer screw. And it does matter which way they go, because this is kind of built up on this side a little bit more. So longer screw over here. All right, so now that we've got that seated in here, we need to route all of these wires and connect them to our board. Using this as a guide here, orientated like that. This black wire needs to route down at the bottom there, come around here, and connect to the topmost port on the top here, which just says filament. So that connects into that. The longer one needs to be routed, so there's a fan that sits on top here, routed over the fan and connects to the touch port that's in there. So that connects directly into that. There isn't a nice, easy way. If you've got nice, delicate, dainty little hands, this will be a dawdle for you. Nice, get a pair of tweezers or something along those lines. Happy days, you're swimming. Me, with these homunculus hands, it's not the most conducive. So what I'm going to do is just disconnect these two here, take off the whole board. There's 3 screws that we need to take out. So these 3 screws here. Take this out, and then it just makes life a little bit easier to work in, and also makes life a little bit more easy if you wanted to ever replace your hot end. So I did replace it. So the original hot end that was in there is this one here. It's seen some action. Still functionally fine. I've just replaced it with the sort of updated version, the black version that has a slightly better aluminum heatsink that sits in there. But that sits in there like this, and you've got these screws that need to come out, as well as the ones that sit on the side here. So these 2 here, as well as the 3rd little screw that goes in the bottom, attaches to that. So there's just screws everywhere. Everything's just mounted up with screws, and there is no somewhat easy to take out the put a new nozzle in. Not really, because you need a spanner to sit around that, and then get another spanner or Allen key to try and get that one off. It's just not easy, but that's neither here nor there. So let's get this board out. All right, so there we go. We've taken those 2 out. They are not easy to get out. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Be careful, because you're liable to break something, and then you're going to have a very bad day. Just don't don't mess around too much with it. So so let's get everything connected up, and then reassemble. But as you can see, so you got the fan in here. Below that, and I'll adjust the camera 2 secs. All right, so there we go. So I've replaced the hot end in here, and as you can see, it's got a much nicer aluminum little heatsink, as well as this sort of anodized black heatsink that sits in here. Much nicer, I think. So we'll see how that performs, to be honest with you. But all told, just a nightmare. Just an honest to God, just nightmare, to be honest with you. They do not really want you fiddling too much in this thing, which is frustrating. All right, so let's get this this all reassembled, put together, reassembled, and take it from there. So there we go. Got it nicely put back together. That took longer than I care to admit. Got all the wires routed down at the bottom here, so we can reinstall our fan shroud and then move on to the next steps. So first things first, reconnecting the fan. Which again, you see my hands, just not conducive, man. Not conducive for this kind of stuff. Give me big plugs, happy days. There we go. Okay, so, and then just sort of go at the top like that until you feel it sort of clicking into place, making sure everything's routed. Cool, so we got the fan shroud reinstalled. Nearly forgot, but we need to put the screws we took out for the stepper motor and the extruder, put that back in. So we've got that done. So now we're going to replace the cover that goes over the stepper motor and the extruder. And here's the old one, and we're going to replace it with the new one. So there we go, got that in place. Let's just put the screws back in. And the final headache, reinstalling the LiDAR. So the LiDAR just clips in on the side here. So you can see there's a little connection point on the side, which sticks out this slot in the fan shroud. It's not the most cumbersome to deal with, to be honest with you. There are far worse things. Once you deal with everything else in this to do with this board, this is a walk in the park. Really? Get my back. Yeah, one of the problems with the LiDAR is the screw in the front here is directly over where this bar is. Yeah, so it's just an absolute pain. Okay, so we've got this installed now. Yeah, ready to go. Hopefully everything's still working, because dropping things, you see? That's what I mean. I'm a little bit klutzy sometimes. And, you know, when you're dealing with a board like this and there's all these small little capacitors and things like that, etc. on here, and my hands are mongrel hands, things are bound to go awry at some point. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's yay. So now that we've finished with the tool head itself and replacing the extruder, we're going to move over to installing the cutter block here. Now, there are two that come in the kit, and they're labelled, obviously, A and B. They look very similar, but for our purposes, we want to use the one labelled B. So to do that, we need to remove the screws in here, and then we're going to loosen the screws on the other side, because this is going to sit in there just like that. So let's get and do that. So now that we've got that in place, we've left these screws a little bit loose on both sides. We want to follow Creality's procedure here of, you know, sort of doing up the belt tension. So we're going to move the tool head to the center here and roughly line it up with the A in Creality. So it just sits sort of dead center there, and that way we can then tighten these two down. Don't tighten too much, because things could get a little bit exciting, i.e. you'll break something. So we don't want to do that, because that's bad. So yeah, let's get these tightened. And there we go. We have installed the cutter block. Happy days. So our next goal is to remove the filament runout center, and that's done by removing these two screws here, as well as two screws on the top and bottom over here. So yeah, let's do that. All right, so as you can see, we've got the filament runout center detached. I've also removed, using my flat cutters, the cable tie. Be careful, you don't want to snip through the wires or anything. It'll come back into play later, but also I wanted to showcase Creality and the hot glue once again, making life extremely difficult when you're wanting to disassemble things. So remove the hot glue with caution and care, because it's a pain. Yeah, in no way, shape, or form was that easy to get off. Yeah, and this is what I mean. Like, it becomes so difficult to do anything in this thing because of all the hot glue. And I love this machine. It's great. And I'm so excited to see how the CFS unit works out. But honestly, the hot glue is just, you know, there are better ways, you know. It is just, it's reeks of just laziness, just going, yeah, hot glue it. It's fine. Hot glue, fine. Cheapest methods possible. Hot glue, hot glue, hot glue, hot glue. You know, if Creality ever sees this and watches this, Come on, guys, you know, think of a better solution than just hot gluing everything, or at the very least, choose hot glue that isn't, you know, thermally bonded to the plastic. You know, that, it just, it's insane. It's insane. It does my head in, and I'm trying real hard here not to lose my cool on camera, you know, because, so yeah, okay, leave it at that. Cool. So our next task is to fit this double-ended fitting, which is going to sit right there. Before we do that, we just need to remove the sort of attachment bracket that goes into the filament runout sensor, as well as just take out the whole PTFE tube. To do that, we've obviously removed the little sort of locking, blue locking tag or whatever it is, and just push that forward. There we go. Happy days. We have removed it. So this little fitting here comes with two screws. You have a self-tapping screw, which looks like that, as well as just a normal threaded screw that looks like that. We want to utilize this one here, not the self-tapping screw. And the way we're going to mount this is it's going to sit with the screw facing the power supply down here. So we've got it right there. Just like that. Alright, so now that we've got the coupler fitted, we're going to grab a length of PTFE tubing and just get it in there. There we go. And I'm super glad to see that Creality started using these compression couplers, because the ones with the little blue tag, those couplers, they're just a fiddle and a faff and get your nail underneath. I've broken quite a few nails just picking away at those, certainly in the old Ender 3. It was horrendous. It was awful. So yeah, what we're going to do is just run this through. I mean, you don't necessarily need to run it through the tube holes, the PTFE guides. It's a fun word, that tube hole, so let's go with that. Run it through there. Avoid the last one, and there we go. I mean, that's always been a criticism of, you know, this particular design, to be honest with you, because it is quite a steep little little bend there. Certainly if you've got the front cover, etc. But that's not really going to be an issue with this, because, yeah, one problem is the fact that we can no longer really put the glass cover back onto this, which is not really great, to be honest with you, because that just sits over there. So printing with ABS, probably not the best gambit with this bad boy. But I don't really print with ABS, so I don't really care, to be honest with you. I'm in an enclosed environment, and, you know, I'm a PLA PETG boy all the way. So, yeah, all right, moving on. So our next mission is going to be installing the screw rod covers. Very exciting stuff. What is cool about them is the fact that they have been 3D printed, which you don't often see. I mean, you know, someone like Prusa, for instance, you know, they 3D print most of their stuff, but yeah, it's kind of cool to see that Creality's, you know, introduced some 3D printed parts. What concerns me is that you can see how thin that is. I'm a little nervous. So, to install them, they are labeled, so we have left and, well, right. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory in this instance. You know, where the screen is, that's the right-hand side, and that's the left-hand side. So, we're going to get this one installed on the left-hand side. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, me. Okay, not gonna lie, that was awful. That was genuinely awful. But they're there, we didn't break anything, and, well, that's a bonus, isn't it? So, we get 2 thumbs up. Happy days. So our next mission is to install the lead screw covers. So we have 2 here. We have one small one and one big one. The larger one, which is labeled B, it's got a B somewhere, there's the B. That's labeled B, is for the K1 Max. The other one is for your normal K1, K1C. So, to install this one, we're going to remove these 2 screws here, and then we're going to try and slot it down on this side, on the right-hand side. of this lead screw. So this is going to go in just like this, making sure I've got the right part. And we need to get the lip, this lip, underneath this. So that needs to go in just like that. So, bend it at a slight angle, get it down, get it over, and then shimmy it into place. So you've got it just kind of ready there, and we can transition. Never mind. I've nearly just broken the glass door. It's fine. It's fine. We're all good. So we got that in place now, and we need to just kind of shimmy this piece, which is, sort of got a cutout in the middle of it, to fit over this little lip here. Pretty simple. Just kind of push it around. There we go. Pretty solidly in place. And from the bottom, what we're going to see is this cover sitting just in front of the stepper motor here. Nice and easy. So, we have a fairly solid part. But to make it more solid, we need to install the Z-axis motor cover, which is this right here. So we're going to get that onto the top of that and see where it takes us. So we've got that installed onto the stepper motor, and I'll put an annotation in just to show that there's a screw that you need to attach it. It's a threaded screw, it's a self-tapping screw that fits on the inside of this cover, and just mounts it securely so everything's kind of secured and tightened together. Easy peasy. So the next thing we need to install is the hopper. So we have the bag here that's just labeled hopper, as well as the hopper fixed block bag. In this bag, there are two options. You've got these two pieces here, and this one, which is labeled B, you can't quite see it, but there's B inside there, and then A inside this one. So we're going to use the part labeled B for the K1 Max. So first things first, we need to install this spring into this slot here. The easiest way, I think, to think about it is if you think about this as a flat plane, you want this little portion here to be sticking up like this. So this just slots in like that, and will look just like this. Easy. Righty, so the next thing we need to do is combine these two elements together. And the easiest way to do that is going to be, if you look at it like that, you can see a lip just on the corner there. This needs to wedge underneath that lip. So line up the two like that, and you can wedge it in there. The problem, however, obviously, this spring needs to be on the other side of this. So when you're mounting it, use your index finger here and just push that down without popping out the spring. Just avoid doing that. Just bend that down with your index finger. Get that underneath there and make sure it's sitting underneath the ledge. Pop it under, and there we go. We now have it combined. So now that we've got this attached, we need to get the long screw here and get it down into there. And the best way to do that is, if you're holding it, because you want to keep a little bit of pressure on it, otherwise it'll separate. Push this one to the sort of outside edge here, so it's sitting like that, and you can see these two holes start to line up, and then you can just get that screw to just go all the way in. You can tighten it with your hand for the time being and just get it in there. Perfect. So once you have it tightened up, you don't want to go too tight, otherwise this is not going to be able to sort of actuate as like that. So yeah, just tight enough that this moves freely, and you're golden. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now we're going to install this directly over here. And this just fits in nice and snug. Yeah, move these cables out of the way to the right-hand side a little bit, and it'll just go nice down, and it'll sit nice and snugly in there. Yeah, no stress. And it includes 2 of these self-tapping screws that come with it. So we're just going to get those down into there, 1, 2, and we've got it. You want the V of this facing this way with the little silicone brush over here. There we go. Nice and snug, sits there pretty secure, and it actuates. I imagine that sound is not going to get annoying at all, but you know, there we go. Cool. So here we go. We've got the build plate, and as you can see, oh, she's looking ever so clean. Now, obviously, I've got this carbon fiber effect. This is not the original build plate that came with the machine, and I've got this plate because it's on the other side of it. It's a dual side. It's got the textured surface on it. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'm using the carbon fiber effect here because I think it looks nice on the bottom of prints. They look pretty cool. And what we want to do is install this little strip here. Now, it's got me a little bit worried because installing it here means I won't be able to use the other side of the bed. Is that going to be the biggest issue? Probably not, to be honest with you. But, you know, these napkin strips, they're a dime a dozen. Now, I do have one that is from a Bamboo Labs machine. So there we go, we've got this one. And truth be told, they functionally look, you know, like they'll do the same job, to be honest with you. They're a fairly similar height, and the usable area is pretty similar. So I might end up switching to something like this, and if I need to, yeah, get rid of this down the line and replace it with something like this, then I can. But what we're going to do is install this at the back edge over here, and you know, once you get this tape on, she is very unlikely to come off again. So let's get that installed. So having run the printer now and run into a couple of issues, notably you can see where that filament line is. So what we need to do is actually offset this strip here to be in line with the back end of the notch for the screw that seats the actual build plate itself. You can see the original line that the toolhead used to make before the firmware update. So we're just going to offset that to sit in line with this. So our next port of call is going to be installing the 485 to USB cable. Yes, we are going to be losing our front USB, but I'm not too concerned about that. For the most part, I never print via the USB. Most of the prints I do are via the network. You could install a dongle, put it to the side, because yes, this is going to sit a little bit proud. But Creality's solution to that is that they've included this little bracket here, this double-sided little bracket that sits in there. That's just going to keep everything nice and tight. And what is cool about it is it's 3D printed. Yeah, I'm you know, quite keen to see that they've got so much 3D printed stuff in this kit. Well, okay, I can't say that much. I mean, apart from these little things and this, yeah, not so much. But this is cool. It's cool to see them utilizing more 3D prints, maybe imitating a little bit of Prusa, but hey, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. The print quality on it, pretty good, to be honest with you. Their layer heights are exceptionally fine on this. So, yeah, kind of cool. So we're just going to peel off the protective tape on this and get it fitted. Get that USB in there. And just push that nice and tight. Does it still close properly? It does. Happy days. I wouldn't be too concerned with losing the sort of front USB that much, to be honest with you, because even with this installed, you can still get your USB out, and we're going to need that in a bit because we need to use the included memory stick that came with it to update the firmware on this to actually make it work, because we're going to jump onto installing the actual CFS unit now itself. So we're going to start hooking that up. So onwards and upwards. So we've kind of mixed things up a little bit here. We've got everything into its final resting place, so to speak. And I've done it this way because the next thing we need to install is the buffer unit, and here it is. Now, there's a couple of options, well, two options to install this buffer unit. Either you can get the double-sided tape that comes with it to sort of just tack it on somewhere like here, or potentially, sort of sitting here just above the extractor vent here. I am not the biggest fan of that idea, particularly down here, because, well, these sort of hex patterns here aren't exactly conducive to sticking things on. It's not going to go under an immense amount of pressure, so it's not likely to fall off, to be honest with you, and the same goes for here. If you install it up here, bear in mind that this is going to be an extremely tight radius for it to sort of come into. The second option is to install it just here. So, and that's what I'm going to do, because I kind of like the way that this setup looks. This is how the unit's going to sit, just flipped on and flipped around a bit. But that's how it's going to be. So I'm partial to that idea, and all we need to do is just get two little screws, pop them into here, attach it like that, and we can move on to the next step. So that's what we're going to do. So we've got that in place now. Now we're going to run a length of PTFE tubing going from here directly into this. It also gives me an excuse to use one of my favorite little tools, which is specifically for cutting PTFE tubing. It's a tube cutter. If you work with 3D printers enough and you start going through enough of these PTFE tubes, get yourself one of these. It'll make life very simple for you. And there we go. See, and what that allows is just a nice clean cut. No stress, no worry, happy days. And to get this into this buffer unit here, you want to push this all the way forward until you've got the little catch coming out, the little compression catch here. Get that in there until you hear a little bit of a click, and then you can feel it. It is well and truly in there. Next, we want to get the other 485 cable. Now, in the CFS unit, not in the upgrade kit, but when you're buying it, you'll get this cable. You get the shorter length of cable. I'm quite partial to this one because I want this one, obviously to be the short run between these two here. So this will just connect in here. Just like so. I'll have that running into that one on the left hand side there. And there we go. So in the CFS kit itself, we also get a bunch of these little short runs of PTFE tubes. And we're going to want the smaller one here because we're going to attach it from one of these ports, probably just the bottom one here, the bottom left one, to this coupler here. In fact, even that one is a little bit too big, to be honest with you. So we're going to cut that down just a little bit. And have a nice short little run just like that. Winning! So that right there is pretty much the final setup. What we need to do next is get the USB that came with the upgrade kit, because on this we have our firmware, our new firmware that will allow us to run the CFS kit. So we're going to get that in there. So as you could see there, it was flashing because this had the firmware onto that. So what we're going to do is click upgrade. It doesn't really matter, so it'll have the current version and then this latest version. So obviously the latest version is quite advanced. I have not updated the machine for quite some time. So we're going to update that and take it from there. So it's gone through its flashing process, and now we have, well, basically we've got to set the printer up all over again. Right, so we've gone through the whole process of well, connecting it to a network, running the calibration, connecting it to our sort of Creality cloud, and now we're into a really crucial and critical step, which is to align the nozzle for purging. So yeah, we're going to jump into that next. So what we're going to press down here, and this is what it says here, is just tap on settings, and it's going to, well, home the machine. So we're at the stage now where we need to basically align the nozzle with the hopper itself. This is so it can properly purge when it gets down to it. So as you can see there, it's come up with the sort of y plus, y minus, x plus, x minus, etc. And it automatically moves the nozzle into position. So you can see that there. We have the nozzle almost in place, but what you'll notice when we start to move it, let's start with moving it left a little bit. So we'll move it a little bit left until it roughly lines up into the center. Well, not roughly, precisely lines up into the center. One more. No, that way. And then we'll press Y plus, because if you look at the shadow there, you'll start to see we're moving closer now. And when you get close enough, you'll see the hopper actually catch and move up, just like that. So we'll keep going until it really does just kind of get into position. I'm going to move right a bit. Like that. So we've got this into position now, and what you'll notice, as soon as you get as far back as you can, you'll see a little pop-up that says max value reached. We know that our nozzle is behind the hopper itself, so it's going to correctly purge, and we can go ahead and save those results. So we're in the home stretch now, and we're going to load in some filament into the CFS unit on the left, as well as just jump into the printer settings, or at least the filament settings, and see what that's all about. So let's do that. So first things first is we're going to open up the CFS unit and just load in some filament, and it should be pretty straightforward. Get your filament spool, thread a little bit out, and just feed it through the PTFS tube. It should catch automatically, and there we go. It's caught, and it's just going to automatically load that filament. So we'll let that do its thing, and then we're going to load up 3 more into the remaining 3 slots here. So we've loaded in 4 spools of filament. They're all PETG filaments. All of them are LGU except for the yellow, which is a Creality hyperspeed PETG. They should effectively all be the same range, but that's what we got on that. Cool. So now that we've got our filament loaded into the CFS unit, we can jump into the filament settings themselves. Head over to filament, and you'll be able to see our CFS unit. And what we need to do, because we're not using any Creality filament with RFID tags, which would come up here automatically, we need to just go in and tell the machine what filament we've got. So for the first one, we've got 2 options. So we've got a Creality branded filament or a generic. In this case, we've got generic because we're using an Elegoo rapid PETG filament. So we'll choose generic, PETG, and then with the question mark there, you'll be able to change the color. It is white, and we'll keep that pretty much as it is. We'll do the same for the second one, which is also generic, also Elegoo, and that is an orange filament. Cool. And for the third one, it is Creality. It's not RFID, but it is a Creality filament. It's also PETG. It is Hyper PETG, and it is yellow. And the last one, we have another Elegoo. It is a, I forget what it is. It's space gray, I think it was called. We can just choose the nearest approximation, which is that. And there we go. We have all of our filaments in there. And now that we've loaded in that, once we hop into Creality print, they should also show up, as well as our CFS unit in general. That we're connected to the network, we're connected to the cloud, etc., etc., etc. We are swimming. So yeah, let's jump into loading up a print and then seeing how this thing works. So we've loaded up Creality print here. This is the latest version. This is version 6.1. And truth be told, I've had to do 0 fiddling. Once we've told the printer what filaments in the CFS unit in terms of color and material choices, that just shows up here. You know, we've gone through the process. When we flashed the firmware and reconnected it to a network, you know, that's automatically showing up here. And, you know, all the settings that we've inputted are reflected, and you can see that at the top here. You can see our material choices. Yes, we can go around and change the sort of material order, as well as if we needed to go in and change the material settings. We don't need to worry too much about that at this stage. I'm kind of interested just to see how it performs, with almost zero user input, because, well, that's the most seamless sort of, measure of an experience, to be honest with you. And so far, having it just kind of show up in here, be plug and play, that's a huge win and a bonus. So what we've got is a pyramid that I've modeled up in SolidWorks, a very complicated little model. But anyway, we're going to make this into a multicolored print. We're going to choose our 4 options here. And I know they're not exactly the most, sort of complementary of colors. It's going to look a little bit weird, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to go over here to our color painting option, and we'll start with the top one. We'll just start and make that a nice gray. I like it. Go down and make the sort of middle layer a nice yellow, and we'll make the bottom layer a very nice orange. And this is a little bit fiddly at the bottom, just trying to get that to go. So there we go. We're going to have a pyramid that looks like that. Actually, doesn't look that bad. Kind of goes. So we can slice that up. I'm not going to fiddle with any of the settings. Just going to, again, see how it forms, plug and play, off we go. I've changed colors and I want to see how it does. So we're going to send this to the printer. And there we go. Again, you can see we have our CFS unit showing up. And this is where you can also define whether or not you want to just switch over to your sort of regular spool holder and not use the CFS unit at all, because that's still an option. So in this regard, we're going to use the CFS. We don't need to do any calibrations, because when we set it up, we calibrated and leveled everything. So don't need to worry too much about that. So we're just going to hit start print and switch over to the machine. And here in our device preview, you can also see the CFS unit actually shows up here now as well. So yes, another big win just to be able to see that. So let's jump into the machine and see how it's going to do. So we can see there, it's head over to the purger, and now it's going to be loading in the first filament that we're going to be using, which is our orange. And you can see that coming through now. So as you can see there, it was unwinding the orange filament because it's going to get ready to load in our white filament. It's getting into the purge location. And here comes the white. A little bit difficult to see, but it is going to be coming through. There we go. It's working pretty flawlessly, to be honest with you. So there we go. We have finished the print, and a really cool feature of the CFS unit is the fact that once it does finish, whatever the last filament that was used gets retracted all the way back into the CFS unit, so that when you do, load up a new print, you can load in a whole bunch of new spools and start again from scratch without having to fiddle around with, changing over the filament, etc. So I love that little feature. And there we go. The pyramid has printed, and it's printed flawlessly. There's no weird layer shifts, layer lines. When you run your finger down the side of the pyramid, you can barely feel where those layer changes were. It looks exactly how it looked in Creality prints. I'm ecstatic. This performed flawlessly. Obviously the biggest drawback is the amount of waste. So here is the purge tower. So you've got the purge tower, and then you've got all the sort of extruded filament, the purged waste. So there are some trade-offs. So there we have it. We have gone through the whole process of setting up the CFS upgrade kit. Has it been straightforward and painless? Yes and no. There has been moments that made me want to tear my hair out, definitely. But I think what Creality has done here is taken the already fantastic K1 series and just elevated it to the next level. Having a multicolor filament system, really does open the door to a lot more interesting prints down the line. And even things like adding in sort of soluble support materials, PVA, things like that. It's just going to make things a lot more easier, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please think about liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.